Good morning, everyone. Ian here. I've been asked to speak to you guys about how do we start and manage a movement. And before I begin, just a bit more about myself. I'm the founder of More Viral Than the Virus, a global COVID youth movement uh, that was started since the beginning of the pandemic. I'll be telling you more about More Viral Virus throughout this whole presentation, so I'll not share too much now. But more importantly, um, today I will be showing you how you can start your own movement or how you can start something of your own, basically. Let me share my slides and we can get going. Sweet, slides are up. So when I was preparing this presentation, I realized that you can actually summarize this whole talk into just one question, and that is, what is your reality? I know this might sound like a pretty odd question to ask you on a Friday morning, but please keep this question at the back of your heads throughout this whole presentation, as I think it might help you understand what I'm about to say. For many of you listening to this presentation this morning, I believe some of you in the audience might want to start something of your own, but you're not too sure how to do it. Some of you have found yourself feeling stuck at times, not too sure why exactly that is so. And if I were to put it across to you, I'm going to tell you how you can get over it, how you can build confidence to truly be able to start something of your own. But before I can get onto that, I need to run through a few principles that I have that I usually go to in my head before I start something. And that is identifying what exactly is my reality as of this point. So before I can answer this question, I need to ask myself two other questions, two other main questions. And the first one is basically, what stage of life am I in right now? Second question, it would be, what exactly are my beliefs and motivation? So going back to the first question, I asked you, what exactly, at which stage of life are you in right now? Because that would help you think about, what exactly is your position and place in the world. For instance, I'm only 20 years old this year. And I've not had a job because I'm only a student, and I know that I have some limitations in what I can do as a student. So, that helps me to shape my understanding of my reality, and then the bit about my beliefs and motivation. That because your beliefs, whatever you believe in, would really motivate you to do something. So, understanding your own beliefs is key if you want to start something, because when people talk to you about passion, it all comes down to your belief, and then your belief would basically shape your motivations. And when someone is charged with motivation, they can do a lot of different things. And that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. What is your reality? But before we talk more about your reality, I want to take you through a step-by-step process of how I define my reality. So before you get to reality, perspective is really important, and your focus is really important. And what do I mean by this? So let's just say this is a pen, okay? Not too sure you can see the pen. This is ordinary pen. Your perspective on this pen at this moment, it is ordinary pen. But if I were to tell you that this is a really expensive pen because I bought it from a really expensive store, from one of the shops down in London, your perspective of this pen starts to change. And if I were to tell you that this is a purple pen, your perspective of this pen starts to change again, because you won't think that this is a blue pen or a red pen, but it's a purple pen, because I just told you that. So as such, the reason why I'm pointing this out to you is because your perspective in life is really key, because it can really shape your focus, it can really shape your reality, it can really shape your action and your belief as well. Because if I told you that this pen costs £1,000, you'll be like, wow, this is a pen that is really expensive. I, I've never seen a £1,000 pen before. I usually see those, pen that just cost a few dollars. But then your perspective basically starts to change. But if you don't see the value of this pen as £1,000, you would fail to recognize the value of this pen, and you'll fail to see the reality of this pen. So what exactly do I mean by that? It's in a sense that many a times, many of us have good ideas, but we fail to shape our perspectives. We fail to bring our ideas across because we fail to see. And that's exactly what I'm trying to demonstrate with this pen here, because if you can see the value of different things, if you can be open-minded enough to share the perspectives of others and yourselves, and to really integrate that, the more you see, the more the greater chances of you being able to see the potential of something and taking it a step further and making it a reality. That is your perspective. Now, the bit about focus, basically, what I'm trying to say here is, in a sense that many a times, if you want to start something, you possibly have quite a few ideas in your mind, and you just do not know where to start because you just have so many things going on in your mind. What do I mean by this? So in a sense, for our generation at least, we are really quick to identify problems, to identify issues that are happening around the world. Some of it could be climate change, some of it could be human rights issues, or some of it could be issues surrounding COVID-19 pandemic. And yeah, so many different global issues. But then as a global citizen myself, I often want to strive to solve or act on many of these different issues. But then I found myself dividing my attention between all the different issues and failing to resonate with a particular issue that resonates with me most. And that is my whole point about focus, because you want to do something for the world, you want to take action, but then because you have so many things going on in your mind, you have so many ideas, you want to try and solve everything, you start to lose focus. So in a sense, the way how I see it at least, your perspective and your focus are two key factors that can really affect your reality. And if I were to elaborate a bit more about this whole laundry list of issues that, myself, I myself, and maybe if you share the same views as well, in the sense that many times I find myself creating a laundry list of issues about, about how the world can be better if we have solved this issue, this global issue, or that other global issue. But then as a result of it, I find myself only raising awareness, but not exactly taking action. So I've lost focus in this whole idea because I have not taken any action. I've only just been raising awareness. I've failed to achieve my reality of being able to solve the issue to begin with, if that makes sense. Bear with me. These are the two principles that I want to share with you as of this point. Hopefully through the presentation at least, you will be able to follow and understand what do I exactly mean by these different principles that I mentioned earlier on. So we started off with the question, but what is reality? I want you to keep that question at the back of your heads throughout this whole presentation. Because what I want to show you is this. You can, and I believe you can, start something of your own. Maybe you just don't have the right confidence as of yet. We can try and build that throughout this whole presentation. Maybe you do not have the right ideas just yet, you don't know where to look. We're going to talk about that throughout this whole presentation. But one thing I definitely want to mention to you is that you should never let age stand in your way. Because let me just put it to you. I'm still a student. I'm just like many of you here listening to this talk. And I'm not, although I've done a few things during the pandemic, and I've accomplished a few things, I'm nothing more and nothing less, not any better than you in any way. And I'm still me, I'm still a student, and we're not any different. Okay, so this is really important because whatever I'm about to show you, it doesn't really define me, but I'm able to tell you this, that if you listen to how I did it and you reflect on what I've just told you at the end of this presentation, after you listen to this whole presentation at least, you should be able to have some ideas of one thing in your life that we'd like to work on. Okay, and I'm telling you it's possible because I'm going to show you. So then, more about coronavirus now then. We are our global COVID youth movement that started at the beginning of the pandemic. We basically are known for our work on misinformation, and we started off as a group of medical students who wanted to basically help some of the frontliners that were hard at work at the beginning of the pandemic. So this is succinctly what coronavirus is known for. But my whole talk today is not just only to tell you about coronavirus, but I want you to recognize a few things I'm about to tell you. And that would be that coronavirus came about because we recognized a problem, okay? And the problem was leaders of the world were criticizing young people for not wearing a mask, not social distancing. And we recognized that as a problem because we started asking ourselves, is it because young people really do not want to listen to some of these guidance that has been put forward to them? Is it because we're just being as rebellious as we are? I mean, come on, we're young people. Or is it because they just do not understand? And if they do not understand, why is it so that they don't understand? And we obviously found out some of the reasons why young people possibly do not understand, because there's so much information about the coronavirus and at the very beginning of the pandemic. And some people, especially if you're not from a healthcare background, you just do not know where to look. So very importantly, when you want to start something, you need to be able to recognize your problem, and you need to be able to communicate this problem to some of the other people that you're working with. So the particular problem in this issue here is communication. We strongly believe that the way that leaders of the world, the way they communicate with young people at least, they could potentially strive to communicate a little bit better. And basically take on board some of the perspectives of young people, if that makes sense so far. Okay. So how did how was I inspired to start Mobile Virus then? It would be your next question. Well, for me at least, as a medical student, I back in first year, I could not treat anyone. I didn't understand a lot of things because I was really new to the whole course. But I understood a few things. Was that when I was traveling back to Malaysia, which is where I'm from, when I was at Heathrow Airport in London, I realized that there were so many people with masks, hazmat suits, hand sanitizers. They had all these different tools that can help them to stay safe and to stop the spread of the coronavirus, but they did not know how to use it. And I was quite annoyed by it actually, because I found myself not having any of those. I didn't have my own mask. I didn't have my own hand sanitizer. I didn't have my own uh, hazmat suit, at least to keep myself protected. People were also wearing gloves, but funny enough, some of them who had gloves were using the gloves and holding onto their phone, which I think I'm not gonna go through about the whole idea of how you can spread COVID after wearing your gloves and wearing your phone and whatnot. I'm not gonna go through that. But my whole point I'm trying to tell you here is in the sense that I recognize the problem. I really resonated with this issue because it was, to an extent, quite annoying for me. Because if you have the capacity to protect yourself, might as well learn how to protect yourself well. Because you'll just be wasting a resource then if you're not even using it properly. So I recognize the problem. I resonated with the issue, and I brought together other medical students, and we wanted to stand together to get more young people to basically listen to some of these guidances that different leaders, different organizations like WHO, for instance, are putting out there. And we wanted to basically attract other young people's attention to adhere to some of these protocols that have been set forward from the perspective of young people to other young people. And hopefully this video that I have for you guys might help you to very quickly understand what exactly mobile virus is. Let me just this is our website, mvttv.co. You can come back here and later on if you want to have a look. You can basically have a look at our milestones. You want to follow us across what we've done in 2020. It's not been updated for 2021 just yet, but just very briefly going through on the slides. Do watch this in your own time if you can. That was a video that came through from WHO for our 1-year anniversary this year, which for us is a huge thing because we're really grateful for some recognition, at least, for our work. So now I'm going to play this video. It's quite short. Hopefully it might give you an idea of what I'm about to say.
To have that urge to go out there and help people. It became really frustrating, and I felt really guilty not being there in the front line with all the other health workers.
Sorry, the video is blurry. I'm going to try and restart that.
To have that urge to go out there and help people. It became really frustrating, and I felt really guilty not being there in the front line with all the other health workers.
I was only a first-year medical student, so I wanted to find a way to try and help out.
I have a message for young people. You're not invincible.
I also realized that WHO actually has a lot of guidance surrounding the coronavirus, but then why are young people not understanding the information? Perhaps there were a lot of jargon Is it because young people were being talked at? I got together a group of medical students, and we thought that perhaps we could help address it from a perspective from young people.
Quédate en tu casa.
Ves la cara.
Stay home.
I know we're not able to share the workload with the frontline doctors and healthcare professionals, but hopefully we will be able to reduce their work in future by spreading awareness and by giving out relevant information to people.
Yeah, we asked young people to tell us what information have they heard about COVID, and we began to check all the information, start like backing up why this information is myth.
People say since alcoholic hand sanitizer kills the coronavirus on your skin, then if you drink a lot of alcohol, then you won't get any coronavirus either. And it led to a lot of toxic behaviors. So if you have a solution that's here and you can grasp it and it makes sense, then you're like, okay, I found the answer. And then you share it to all your friends and all your family. And that also propagates the spreading of misinformation.
It's not just youngsters who are spreading information, or it's the older generation that is spreading information, but instead I think it is just the lack of proper resources to get information.
We found out that between 2,600 respondents among the 5 continents in the world, 85% of them fact-check information before sharing it or reading it.
I think they've come a long way from you know, the beginning of the pandemic, where everything was easily accepted, but now they're actually questioning and they're actually reasoning. I'm able to build a bridge between the youngsters and also the older generation, where people again start believing that young individuals cannot take responsibility.
This whole exercise has really changed us as a person to be a global citizen and be more than just a student, and that it's actually more than just studies.
If you found that video interesting, there's a lot more to watch and talk about on our channel. So for all updates on everything BBC My World, subscribe here.
Sweet. Okay, so that's the video. I'm gonna reshare my screen now to find the slides. PowerPoint slides. Good. Okay, so you have watched the video about coronavirus. I'm not too sure if you picked up a few things. If there's one thing I want you to pick up from that video, and that is the way how we advocated for certain issues. So many a times, whenever you find a solution for a particular problem, at least, you need to make sure that the solution is simple enough that can be scalable. That's my opinion of it. Okay, people might tell you other different things, but I personally believe that it'd be much easier to do something if you have a simple solution that is scalable. So in our generation, at least, we have the pleasure of using technology to our advantage. And what I'm trying to get is, in a sense, that we are able to advocate digitally without having to go out on the streets to protest. And we found this idea by coincidence, because it was a global lockdown. Everyone's had to stay in. You couldn't protest on the streets if you disagree with the government, for instance. Many of us were medical students, and I wanted to protect their interests because many of them have bright futures ahead. We wanted to learn how do we advocate safely in this whole technological digital space. So this is digital advocacy, which is what I'm trying to say. So basically, throughout the whole video, if you have noticed one thing, that is us using these digital social media filters as part of our advocacy. So basically, many of times, people often put across ideas of information in the form of an infographic. But then we realized that we could actually do this in other ways that can be engaging, that can be captivating, and that can be straightforward to the point, to really put some of our ideas in someone else's heads. So we basically recognized the problem. The problem was we believed that young people were not understanding some of these guidances, or maybe they were not interested enough to have a read about some of these guidances. So we need to bridge the gap between young people and various leaders or various governments or various organizations like the WHO. So in a sense, recognizing the problem, finding the solution, and then the next bit of it I'm going to tell you is that we need to be able to make sure that our solution is relevant, and we need to make sure that our solution is relatable. Sounds very similar. Let me explain what I mean by that. In this presentation, at least, you would see that we have these posters here. That's been very creatively created by our Mexico local movement at the start of the pandemic, where basically they translated WHO guidances from English to Spanish. The reason why I say that this is a good example of being relatable is because with this method of disseminating information, at least, we were able to basically capture a group of people, and that would be young people, because most of the time, that is where, the digital space, social media like Instagram, Facebook, that's where most young people are found. So if you're able to captivate them through a very catchy social media post, you are basically solving that little factor of being relatable. Because young people are more going to be attracted to your social media post. They're more likely to read it, and we are more likely able to point them to wherever we want to point them to. Let's just say WHO's website, or a good article about COVID, if that makes sense. Now, the whole point now that I have not mentioned about relevant is in a sense that what we found out was that whenever we put forward a solution, we need to recognize if it's a one-size-fits-all solution, or is it a solution that is specific to a particular group of people. Let me give you an example. So let's just say you've heard about social distancing. We need to social distance for at least 2 meters. I'm not too sure what that is in feet. You can't really do that if you're living in a family household of more than 15 people in, let's just say, Brazil, for instance. So the solutions that you come up with needs to be relevant. Okay, you need to take that factor into account, because otherwise you're just going to get it wrong. So we recognize the issue. We have basically found a solution, and with the solution, we made sure that it is relatable and it is relevant. And now the next bit of it is, how exactly do we take our solution forward to other people? How do we attract people to listen to us? How do we attract people to come and join us in our advocacy, in your movement at least? And some of the ways you can do that is, as I mentioned earlier, you could do it through social media filters, like you have seen here on this right-hand side of the slide. But let me now ask you, what other ways can we use to put information across to other young people, or what other ways can we use to attract other young people's attention? I'll give you a thought. I'll give you 15 more seconds to have a think. Okay. If you have thought of using GIFs or using memes, well done you. I thought those were the easier ones to think about. You could use comic strips. I personally am a strong advocate for comic strips because they have been around for many, many years. And I'm not too sure about you, but in the UK at least, newspaper cuttings, there's always a page where you have comic strips there. Very simple to read, very quick to understand, and sometimes have a laugh. Comic strips are such a great way to put any ideas you have across succinctly and swiftly. But many of us are not using some of these tools. And today I want to encourage you that you can start using them and start basically attracting more people in whatever you're doing by being different. Most people use the conventional way of creating a very, very long video, or most people go through the arduous process of creating an infographic. But you can be creative. You can be captivating in other ways. And I've just shown you how with the comic strips here, with the GIFs idea that I have, one of our local movements from Australia, use memes to put some ideas across. So yeah, there's so many different ways that you can do this, but many of us are not doing it, and I would really want to encourage you to do it. So now, to wrap everything up then, what is your reality? You want to achieve various things in life, as I do myself, but then many a times you fail to see some form of reality, because at the very beginning of my presentation, I said that this is probably due to your failure to see a particular perspective. And I think recognizing this principle is really key, because your perspective can really change your reality, your action. And this is the end of my presentation. If you have any questions, please do reach out to me. I'm not too sure if I put my email here, but that would be ian.so23@gmail.com.